Hello and welcome. We finally reached part 2 for the ST 5600 105 3-speed shifter. Between two mini holidays, my friend coming over, a heat wave in France, this shifter took a bit of a hiatus and I just didn't feel like getting up to doing this. But today we are. So we're going to begin by dismantling it and then we're going to be putting it back together again. Let's begin. Now you'll see here that mine doesn't have the plastic cover like on, for example, this Dura-Race shifter. It's actually just a plastic cover that you simply unscrew, and that will eventually be important to obviously access this bolt right here that allows us to get further into the mechanism. So unfortunately this part I will not be able to show you on video. Let's begin by removing the plastic hood, or rather rubber hood. Now here is letting you have access to that ribbon that, if I remember correctly, allowed you to attach to some sort of timer or computer, which is probably useless these days, but we're going to take it off anyway. This part right here you can simply unhook, and we're going to be passing it through the shifter. Okay, underneath the lever here where there's that pin that's running through, there's a tiny bolt. It's a number 2, so we're going to use an Allen key to remove that. And got that off finally. Okay, on this side there's a pin. You can tell by the one side's fairly flat, and you want to push this through. Use something, I don't know, like this screwdriver that I'm using now, and then I'm going to use a plier to fully pull it out. And now you can see this is starting to undo itself, and that ribbon, we're going to be able to pull it through. If you don't use this function, you could just pretty much break it. It doesn't really do anything. Got that through. In between here you have these 2 bushings that you can take off. I think this one's the smaller one without the spring, and in between here you have that spring and the longer one. Okay, so we're going to start removing this black cover. So there's 2 Phillips screws here to remove from the looks of it. Let's take that one off, and this silver one. Here you have a bolt, and it's a number 8 nut. Let's start removing that standard anti-clockwise. I think we should be able to get now to the cover normally. Yeah. Okay, so now we can take off this cover. Now there's another nut to remove. It's again a number 8, and it will be also be removed anti-clockwise. Okay, this spring, I'm going to attempt to unhook it, and then we can there you go. Now we can take off this plate. So underneath that plate was some kind of plastic holder. And we've got that spring. Okay, on the side here there's a Phillips, if you can see right there in that hole. We're going to undo that, and that's going to allow us to remove this kind of plastic cover right here, and we're going to have a bit better access as well. So let's undo that. One side and the other side. Okay, now so if you look here right at the back, there's that Phillips screw. So it's behind the leaf, and that's actually attached into this cover. Now I made the mistake on the first shifter that I worked on, and I didn't know you had to remove this straight away, and so I kind of damaged it, but this time I do know. So there's some kind of tabs that are holding it down, and we're going to need to bend those back out of the way to be able to undo this. So here you'll see I'm using actually a knife. It's the best thing I could come up with really to bend these, and it's the only thing that's sharp enough anyway. So you can just about see I am able to bend these back and get them out of the way of the Phillips bolt. So I'm going to keep going with that, and then we'll get on to the undoing. Okay, so I've evaded actually stripping this like last time I did. So make sure you get a really good Phillips screwdriver that gets into there really well, so to avoid damaging it, and it should work. It can be quite hard, but I've done it a lot easier than I did last time. And it's come out. And now you'll be able to lift off this cover. Oops, I won't take that off yet. So there's a bushing here that's quite hard to get off. I'm just going to leave that. And another one here. Right, we're going to start getting into the nitty gritty. Let's remove this first nut. It's number 8 again. Okay, let's remove this first thing. So there's a bushing there. My god, there's going to be loads of parts, I think. There's a very thin spacer. So here I'm going to be trying to be gentle as to not... something just flickered in there. Oh, well, I got this first part off. And there was that return spring. Okay, well, luckily it was easy to figure out, because that tip's going to go into that hole right there on that nylon part. We can now take this off, and underneath is a sprocket. So let's take off that sprocket. And here's a plastic bushing. So you'll see that the plastic bushing was in a specific place actually when I took it off. There's like a little nib there. And another bushing. Let's remove this pull. And its spring. So the spring is latched up right here. Right, got it off. Okay, so now it's starting to get very confusing. I think that now we need to remove this tiny little clip here that's going to allow us to take off this right there. So let's see what happens when we do that. Alright, so take off the clip off that little bit there. Right, so it looks like we can start to remove this part. It's a little bit stuck, but it seems to be kind of lifting. Stuck on something now. Let's see if I do that. Oops. Alright, well, we got it off in the end. It just slipped off. So for this spring right here, from the looks of it, it came out of this hole right here, the interior tip. Okay, next there's another circlip here that's holding this plate down. So we definitely need to take that off. Got it. Okay, now we can take off this plate. So let's take off this bushing. Kind of half semi return spring. I'm going to take off this pull now. And now we can take off that spring. This plate. There's another bushing. Now getting to the lever. I nearly made the mistake last time. Underneath this lever, there's a very thin plate, and it needs to be in this position. And there's kind of like a slit for this hole right here for the other tip of the spring to go into. Thankfully, I didn't miss that this time. And we've now finally got to the last bushing. Okay, so just as much fun as the last one. Tons of little bits to put back in. I don't know how many bushings there were in total. Probably 6, 7, 8. So now we can. I'm gonna think about this for a little second. I need to re-look at the video to remember everything. But I think it will be easier than last time. If yours needs cleaning, this is definitely the right time to do it. I'm going to add on a little bit of grease in certain areas, but I think mine's globally okay. It was working anyway. Right, so I'm ready to put everything back together again. I'm going to be using this Shimano premium grease, and I'm going to be dabbing little bits every so now and again throughout the parts when I assemble it on again. I also have wiped down some of the old grease to give it a bit of a better clean. So let's begin putting this back together. Okay, first thing, we grab this part here with this kind of main pivot bolt. I'm going to put the last bushing that we took off from before. Next, grab the return spring for the downshifter trigger lever thing. Anyway, whatever it's called. Here there's a hook part, and you're going to want to put that hook part right there. Like so. Put that to one side for a second. Okay, take the lever. Now you're going to see on this, there's that spacer there with a kind of a slit. And we want that to completely cover except for one hole, which is going to be right there. So we put this in this position. And now the other tip of that spring is going to go into that hole. Aim for that. And you'll see now when you're going to be pulling, it's going to give it a return. Okay. Hold that now in place. You're going to have now another bushing. Now I really do hope that these are all the same size and that you've not mixed everything up. Let's put that one on. Right here is going to be a pull. So it had a small return spring, and there's a hole just there on the left. So we're going to put that on. So one tip of that spring is going into that little hole. And then you're going to have the pull itself, and the part that's like flattest is going to be facing us. Now you will need to use something to kind of grab the other tip of that spring so that it goes in front of the pull. Like I've just done. And eventually you're going to be able to push this all the way down the pull. You need to kind of play with it a bit. There. I mean, it's not super important now, but you will need to push it down eventually when we put the last plate on that holds everything. Now, you do need to kind of keep the pull a little bit out of the way, because we're going to put this plate here with that pivot part right on the top or facing towards us, and you want to put it in this position. Right, next you've got another bushing to put on. Okay, so now if you see that hole right here, we're going to grab that kind of half shaped spring, and one tip's going to go in that hole I've just pointed out to you. Now there's the next plate, and you'll see where it's marked 3 facing towards us. There's a hole right there, and that other tip of that half spring that we just put in, you're going to put that into that hole. So let's jot down the top. Surprisingly, it actually holds once it's inside, though it seems all shaky when you're doing it. Right, that looks like it's in. Hold all this down. Right, on top of this now there's going to be another bushing to put on. So slide that through. We now have this plate to put on. Now the larger hole is going to go over where the pull is right there. So I'm going to do that now. Okay, now push that down, and there should be a clip you've got now that you're going to be able to put right there. And we're going to put that right there underneath. Okay, and we're going to close it now. Clip it under. And now let's close that with a plier. There you go. Now, although you can kind of let go of everything now, it is kind of shaky, but if you want to have a pause, you can kind of put this down and everything should stay somewhat in place. I think that's what I'm going to do now, and check on my chicken that's cooking. Okay, now we're going to get to the next part. So we're going to have this spring, the return spring, right here. So the interior part, that's the little tip of that spring that's facing downwards, we're going to put that into the hole on that plate right there. Now I noticed when I was on some parts of the video when I was undoing, it's slightly blurry. I guess it's not so important, but putting it back on is probably going to be a little bit more complicated. So I'm going to try and be as careful as I can, as much detailed. This part here now is going to be quite complicated, but it's actually not. So if you see this rod right there on this part that we're about to put on, it's eventually going to be going into the hole, which is right there, the back. Now, before you put that, what you want to do is recline these parts because they're going to be going in front of it, and that's actually acting as a stopper. So I'll just show you on the camera. You'll see there's 1, 2, 3 kind of tabs sticking out. You want them to be in front of the hole before you put this on. So you're going to need to kind of hold that with your finger. Now the next part, now we can slide that on. and it's going to get to a point where it's stuck, it's not going further down, and that's because right inside here you have, right there, you have this pull. You need to move that a little bit out of the way when you're going to be inserting this, and when you push that back it should be allowing you to go a bit further down. And now we're going to push that out the way, and that should allow you to push all the way down. Now what's very annoying is this spring underneath. We're going to need to, right there, it's already popped underneath that hole unfortunately. We're going to need to grab the other bit of that spring and kind of recline it so it goes around this hook part right here. Now by slowly kind of lifting up this plate, I've had enough room to make sure that this tips back into the hole, the inner tip of that spring, into that hole of that plate. And now I'm going to be able to grab this and bring it up to here hopefully. I'm using some tweezers, makes it a lot easier. Okay, it looks like I've got it up, there you go. It's still in the hole there where we need it to be. So if yours is still stuck here, that little pull, you might need to push it back so you can fully seat everything down. As you can see right there, it's not fully seated. Something's stuck. Perhaps one of these parts. Yeah, it was one of those parts. It started to click down now. Let's do that a little bit more. Right, now grab the circlip. That's going to hook that little part at the back, and we are literally going to be at the, well, we've passed the hardest point. That was the hardest point, I'd say. Oh no, it's flown off. That's great. Gotta look for that. Lucky for me, I found it. And that's clicked on. Okay, now we're going to put this return spring for the pull. That hook part is going to go right there, tip of my nail. So put that in. Yeah, and so for the pull, it's going to eventually be going, well, the tip that's larger, it's going to go downwards. And you want that spring to go right there on that slit on the side. So let's get that done. There you go. So it should be resembling this. Now you're going to have three parts. You had this nylon bushing with a little tab. And you have this bushing that ran through it. Skinny one. Now after that you had the sprocket and its metallic cam. So this sprocket is going to fit in like this. I'll give you a second to have a look at that in that exact position. So it should look like that, and eventually that pull that we've got there is going to fit right between those teeth. So this cam, if you look at that little tab there, there's actually going to be one spacing underneath here which you can slot it into, and it's going to be like that, so you can push it all the way through and it's flat. And now we can insert it. Going all the way down, and I'm just going to click that pull into those two teeth. As you can see there, like I was saying, it's the little gap between those two teeth. It's quite obvious where it is. And next you're going to have the return spring. Now that inner part with the tip that's facing downwards, there's only one hole here on that nylon part that's there at the back. So we're going to aim for that. Now we need to put this part, and that tab there is eventually going to go right here at the back. that rectangle shape, and the hook for that spring right there is going to eventually latch onto this part here. So what I think I'm going to do is I'm going to just start putting it down, and then I'm going to grab something to help put it back in, and we can seat this fully. So I'm going to try and hold down the spring whilst I pull this back. Ah, no, it's undone itself. Might try again with a plier. Let's see if that's going to work better. Nearly there. Ah, I think I got it. Alright. Yeah, I've got it. Okay, so now that I've done that, let's try and aim for this now. Ah. Okay, yeah. I think I've got it. Yeah, it's done. Ah. Okay. On the top of that, make sure you hold all this, by the way, because it slips. You put that little spacer ring. There's the bushing for the next part that we're about to put on. There's this part with the, oh no, there's another little bit there as well. There seems to be another little ring that was on that. Right. So, which way was it? I think it was this way. Okay. Yeah, I think that makes sense. That little plastic tab fits in here. I'm going to check. I think it's that. Right, hold all that down. Start putting this nut down now. We can let go after. Let's tighten that fully. There, okay. Okay, when I was doing all this, the little spring there popped off. Luckily, we can still work on that, so we don't need to remove anything. Now, I've just tested it and mine works. You can do the same thing, and well, unfortunately, if it doesn't work, you're going to have to go back on yourself again. And so you just pop this, the other lever on, and you can hear mine is fully functional. It's changing gear, etc. Okay, last time it was a little bit annoying to put this part on, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to put the bolt with its those tabs that we unfolded. I'm going to try and get it behind here. And there. So do that first, and then after you can get that cover on, and then what we're going to do is we're going to try and aim for that screw there at the back and screw it down. Okay, I've managed to aim that incorrectly. Be careful not to cross thread. I'm using this long screwdriver to aim for it, and then I'm going to get the better one to get a better grip. So hopefully that's on properly. It feels like it is. So we're going to start to screw it down. Yeah, I think it's working. Right, that's down, and I'm going to bend back those tabs in case they get in the way of things. Okay, I've basically bent them back now. It's incredibly painful getting that in the right position though when you're putting this on. Oh well, at least it's raining outside. I've been suffering from a heat wave. So from what I remember, this goes here, and you push that all the way through. Okay, here I didn't film this actually. There's a little ring that's left over. I must have missed it. I think it goes on the top. And next we're gonna have this plastic nylon part. So the tabs are facing upwards, and that's gonna kind of act as a holder for the plate that we're gonna put on next. We also have that spring, the return spring, which we're gonna have to recline back. Now that tip there is going to go onto the smaller, not the larger hole. So kind of aim for that. And then we've got finally this plate that's holding the spring in place. And that part here is going to be facing upwards towards here. So we're going to push down this actually, and a little bit to get out of the way for one. And we're going to put the nut in place before we recline that spring. And that's going to help us, we'll make it easier for one. So screw that down, and then we're going to aim for everything in a second. In fact, before we put that nut fully down, I'm going to put a little bit myself now. Right, just try that enough when it doesn't work. The best thing is going to be to just screw this down until you meet with the tabs of that plastic nylon part inside. Yeah, we're nearly there. Okay. Now we're going to use a plier. We're going to recline everything back. Holding onto that. We're going to have to bring it all the way up there. Okay. I think we're nearly there. Yeah, we've got it. Oof. Right, that's on. Now you can fully screw that down. Right, we're not over yet. We've got to get this cover back on. I'm going to have the fun part soon of the fin on the lever. Now this cover here apparently is put in such a certain way to get it on. How did I do it again? I think I put it on the side somehow and it just kind of slid on. Wait, am I there? No. Okay, there you go. Got it on. You know when it's on because there'll be the hole for that, that screw that we need to put down. It's the black one that goes here. And then the silver one. I think here you're supposed to put the cover, the front here. I'm not sure if it's now or not. You'll figure it out. That's not the hardest part anyway. Right, here you've got this final nut to put on. Tell you what, I've had enough of the shifter. So we've got this plastic parts to put on the side. Okay, now there's this plastic cover. So that bit there that screws in needs to go through there. And it's going to go to the other side. There. So like that. Now we need to put that black screw here to hold these down. Okay, this one's not magnetic. There you go. Okay, finally now, the next last painful part of the journey. We've got to put the spring back for these levers, for both of them and in the main body. Grab the first plastic bushing, the long one, that goes onto the left, and the smaller one goes onto the right. You then have this spring, so this part here, that tip that's going outwards, that's actually going to go through this hole right here, and you need to put that over the larger bushing. So I'm going to just do that now. Okay, so as you can see now the other tip's gone to the other side and it should be in this position. Now what's very difficult here when you're putting this in is that other tip of that spring needs to press against here, and you're going to see when you put this in that tip of that spring kind of falls out into the back. There's actually a special Shimano tool for this, and normally you're supposed to put this first, but it's actually kind of annoying not to put it first. Maybe I should. Let's see if I can do this the first time round. I'm gonna put the that ribbon through now, so that way it's somewhat in there, and then I have to play around with that. Okay, it's gone through. Now the trick is you're going to need a number 2 Allen key wrench. So what I did is I've put this started to position in the right place. So here you can see. Right. So now you can just about see that tip of that spring at the back. And then what I've done is I've taken the number 2 Allen key, and what I do is I put that just on the side here, laying flat, like so. And then I'm going to catch that little part there, and when we're going to push down, it's going to it's not going to fall back straight away, and then we're going to push all the way down, and then it should work, hopefully. Let's see if we can get that on camera. No, it's going to be a second attempt. Something's in the way here. It's not. Okay, so you can just about see there. If you look at the back, I've got that in. So I'm going to keep pushing down until the Allen key is right at the end of it. And I've missed. You can just about see that tip of that spring, which is right there, that I'm able to get forward. I'm going to now bring forward the Allen key because it's actually blocking our lever from going fully down. And if you can see right there, I've got the lever in the right place. Now hold that nicely down because we're going to put that pin through now to hold everything down. If you need to hold this for whatever reason, there's a number 2.5 Allen key that you can actually take and just run that through, and it actually holds everything in place, and you can actually test it that way to see that it's returning before you put the pin in, for example. So our pin, the rounded edge part, not the flat part, is going to go on, if we're looking like this, on our left. So I'm going to take that out, put that through. I'm going to use just a plier to get this all fully seated. Push that down a little bit more. Okay, now that you've done all that, you can put the bolt back in underneath that pin. We've now got to put this bolt back, which is a number 2. I'll tell you what, I am happy we're getting to the end of this one. There you go. And then the annoying cover to put back on. Just make sure that's working. Yeah, I imagine it wasn't. Right then, well that's the end of that. Please check out my other library of rebuilds on shifters, derailleurs, etc. Thank you for listening, and until next time, peace out.